Today, with the excuse of transparency, of sincerity, of integrity, we are assisting to a phenomenon of incontinence of people's aggressive drives, which is very worrying. It seems the majority of people feels the right to say whatever to whomever and in whatever way, behind the mask of I tell what I think, as if it were a gift to the other person. But is it really a gift? Also due to social medias and the altering of interpersonal relationships, it seems to me it is an excuse to vomit of somebody else all our issues without any empathy towards the other person, but often with a great level of hypocrisy, as if we were doing it, as if it was a favor, when it's really just a way to get free of our own rubbish, inner rubbish, giving the hot potato to the other person. And so, how can I deal with unsolicited criticisms and reviews?
Hi, I am Maya Vassallo di Florio. In this space, I answer the most common questions about personal blooming and empowerment. Touching philosophical, spiritual, cultural, and social themes, I support you in making the difference in the world. I'm here to guide you blooming in the marvelous creature you are, one petal at a time.
Welcome to this new Aphrodisia episode. Today's episode was born from one of my students' question. She's Alma and she asked me, how can I distinguish between a feedback and a criticism? And when I notice it is a criticism, how can I deconstruct the power it has over me? Well, this is a very, very powerful question, or better, it's two questions in one. But let's proceed step by step to get to a conclusion in harmony with Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality I teach, in order to make this episode useful in practical life for you. First of all, let's distinguish between a feedback and a criticism. A criticism, it's often sterile. It's aimed at demolishing the other person and to put the other person a step behind us, a step down. And often it is unsolicited. So the person goes under the drives of the person that is not able to take in the unsolicited request. So it's a power over dynamic. And it's oriented to the problem, not to the solution, because what the person that criticizes wants is not to help the person to which the advice is given, but to stick the person into the problem or get it worse even. Obviously, the majority of times it is unconscious. Like, I'm not saying your mother or father or granny, when they give you unsolicited reviews, they always want to demolish you, tout court. I'm not saying that, because the majority of times they're not even aware of some envy, some jealousy there might be towards you. If they were, they wouldn't tell you any unsolicited reviews, because love and consciousness would prevail. So I'm not talking about love relationships, your close relationships, where it may happen. But in any case, I will give you some strategies to deal with it. May it be a person of your family, your relatives, a dear friend, or somebody you just superficially know. Let's do some examples of unsolicited criticisms and requests. Are you pregnant or did you put on weight? Oh my goodness, what happened to your skin? I told you. I think you're doing something crazy. I really don't like how this jumper suits on you. You talk too much. Oh, you're too sensitive. Why don't you cut your hair? If you lose weight, you would be beautiful, super beautiful. Oh my goodness, your house is a chaos. You have to do this. You have to. So the criticisms, the reviews tend to point the finger towards the other person, while instead the feedback is constructive, it's fruitful, it's aimed at constructing self-trust, self-love. It's aimed at putting wings on the shoulders of the other person. It's aimed at elevating and really helping the other person to improve. And the majority of times, a feedback it's requested. And if it's not requested, the person would ask for permission to give a feedback. So the person will tell, are you willing to receive a feedback from me? As you can see, it is oriented at supporting and elevate the other person. Some examples, none of the sentences mentioned above, but instead, the person that wants to give a constructive feedback would ask, how do you feel? Can I do something for you? What would make you feel better? What could you do to feel better? So giving power again to the other person. Or me personally, I would do so. Or you could try this. So try and could, not you have to. So as you see, the feedback doesn't point the finger towards the other person, but it puts the hand under or at the back of the other person to comfort or to support. So the position of the hand, if we want to use a metaphor, is different. Said so, once we have understood the difference between a constructive feedback and an unsolicited review, let's focus on critics and reviews. There are two kinds. The ones we receive, on which we are very focused, we are very good at noticing the unsolicited requests from others. But there is also another category, the critics we express unsolicitedly. And that's something that less often we want to see and we want to admit. And this is very uncomfortable, and I would like to start from here. So from all the times in which you recognize yourself, you expressed an unsolicited review. So let's start asking ourselves, how much do I judge and criticize other people? This is a constant, refined training exercise to avoid chatting and backtalking, to avoid demolishing somebody else. Please always remember that the more we criticize someone else, the more it is a sign of low self-esteem. And the more we do it, the more we augment our inner misery and the more we nourish our inner rubbish. There is a very nice way of saying that if we point the finger towards somebody else, the other three fingers point towards us. So when we notice the temptation to criticize somebody else emerges, always remember, please, that it is a precious occasion to understand what that criticisms wants to tell about us. What these other three fingers are telling about our needs and insecurities. Because the criticisms often talk more about those who express it than those who receive it. So it's a great occasion to see what's in me that I don't want to see, what's in me that can be improved. How can I transform myself into a jewel? Transform yourself into a jewel, it's in fact the title of the free online workshop that I will offer on the 7th of February at Italian 9 p.m., in which we will talk about these and very, very precious and important subjects with a lot of free, valuable contents for you. You can find the link in the description to subscribe to this amazing workshop, and you will be also able to see what time it will be in your country and set your calendar to remind you about this precious event in which we will work together with lots of practices and exercises to make your 2023 your golden year, in which you will transform yourself into a jewel. Like the psychoanalyst James Hillman said, this is the tendency of Aphrodite as an alchemic goddess, the goddess that invites us to improve as human beings and to alchemize ourselves, our souls, into jewels from raw metals. So click on the link to subscribe. You really don't want to miss this amazing workshop I prepared for you. So whenever you feel your criticism arise, ask yourself, how can I improve myself? How can I transform and elevate myself? What's in me that I can transform? And here I would like to do a disclaimer. I'm not talking about the times in which you, for example, have a discussion with a friend or a difficult moment with a friend and you want to confront with another friend talking about the situation. So I'm not talking about that. But in that case, please remember that the focus does not have to be on judging and criticizing the friend with which you have a problem, but it has to be on expressing your feelings and emotions. How do you feel? How that behavior made you feel? So the focus is not on criticizing the other, but on yourself and telling how you feel. In Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, I really encourage people to develop emotional intelligence. So please really start training from today in expressing healthily and empathically your emotions rather than spitting out criticisms towards other people. And this, you will see, will help you nourish also a good balance between me and us, the I and the us, detaching from the Western attitude to putting in contrast I and them. And there is a cultural problem here of separation, of mors tua vita mea, like Latin said, your death, my life. Well, I prefer in Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality to look at the example of cellular biology, in which we see that an organism works well if every cell works in cooperation, if there is an I in balance with the we. When this does not happen, cancer occurs within the body and within the society also. So if you know me, you know also that I often talk about matriarchal societies still existing nowadays, like the Moswas. But also, if you don't want to look at matriarchal society, look at Thai people, Japanese people. They are, as a society, really aware that I can be happy only if we are happy. So I will put a limit to my tendency to vomit, my drives, or whatever I think or feel on another person, because I care about the other person. And I know if the other person is not happy, I cannot be happy, really. Because if I do something, because if I don't care about the other person, nobody else will care about me. So it's not really nice to live in such a society. In the Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, like in those matriarchies and beautiful societies I told you about, everybody is responsible for their own rubbish. And everybody will take care in not polluting and putting toxicities into the common spaces. And this is both metaphorical and real, for real, like in the real environment. I like particularly Japanese societies because for a person that throws the piece of paper or the rubbish on the floor, there are 9 people that clean the floor. So this is the kind of society everybody would really like to live in. But to do it, we have somehow to limit our drives and to understand what are the advantages in doing that, both personal and collective. And what about dealing with unsolicited reviews and criticisms from other people? In this case, I really have to break the enchantment. Like I say in my book, Aphrodite Unveiled, I can use the words or just the glance in silence. Sometimes silence and the power of glance is more powerful than any word. It is important to set a limit if the person doesn't know where the limit is. A clear limit, which in matriarchal society is not even necessary to tell because it's very clear as a common agreement. So I want to give you 3 methods I use in Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality, which you can put into practice when you receive unsolicited reviews. One is irony. So when you receive unsolicited reviews, you can say, so, are you pregnant or did you put on weight? You can answer this. Oh my goodness, you really couldn't hold it in. Oh my, what happened to your skin? You can answer this. How are you so interested in my skin? Why don't you cut your hair? You can answer, why do you want me so badly to cut my hair? Or you can use the Socratic method. You talk too much. Or you're too sensitive. You can answer this. Too sensitive compared to what? I talk too much compared to who? And who says so? It's just your opinion. Okay. Or you can use Aphrodite's mirror. If you lose some weight, you would be really beautiful. You can answer this. If you could hold for yourself unsolicited reviews, I would really appreciate that. I told you. You can answer this. Did I ask you? So these are just some methods I use and teach to my students in Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality. And to get into it, you really have to train and to exercise. But once you understand the mechanism under any unsolicited review, and your brain automatically recognizes the mechanism. Which mechanism? The real why of the other person, the real reason why the other person does so and says so to you. What the other person really needs, what's the need, what's the demon, what's the starting point. And you really want to learn how to do it to protect yourself, but also to give the other person a limit and to allow an authentic relationship with the other person. So this is a real gift. And sometimes it's also a lesson of consciousness and education. Well, I really hope this episode was useful for you. I'm waiting for you on the free online workshop on the 7th of February at Italian 9 p.m. Click on the link in the description to subscribe. There will be many surprises for you, and it will be very enriching and juicy and precious for your life to make your 2023 your golden year. As always, if you want to support Aphrodisia's project, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to receive a notification anytime a new episode is born and to receive your weekly dose of culture and personal and spiritual growth through Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality. And share, of course, with other people out there that might feel alone and confused, to let them know there is a family, an Aphroditic family here where they can feel empowered and shining and blossoming again. And please leave me your feedback. If you're listening from YouTube, you can write it down here under the description and I will be happy to answer personally. If you're listening the podcast, you can take a few seconds to leave your 5 stars and I will be really happy because it will mean you appreciate this project and you will allow your contribution is precious to allow other people to benefit from it. As always, we will meet on every Thursday and on the 7th of February with the free workshop Transform Yourself into a Jewel. See you soon and bye-bye. Mwah.